Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to Israeli Air Force's Rank 4 overview and guide. In this episode, I will give you an overview of all the planes in Rank 4 Israeli. We'll go through the separate lines and we'll go through the planes, give you the strengths, give you the weaknesses, and give you an idea what this rank entails. We also will take the premium plane and have a look at that. At the end of the video, I will give you a guide and tip section in which I will recommend talismans, the planes you should fly, the best planes, the worst planes, and what is the most efficient way through the tree. Hopefully that will all help you out to make quick decisions and get you through the tree as quick as possible. Make sure to give me your comments in the comment section below. We'll keep on working. Rank 5 will come soon. And hopefully you'll enjoy. Guys, let's jump right in. Rank 4 Israeli. Here we go. Hey guys, so here we go. The first plane in the main fighter line, the Spitfire Mk.IX. She sits right here in the line, 5.7 battle rating, which is incorrect. You will find out soon. But she sits right there at the start of the tree, rank 4. She does have quite a bit of armor protection, which is quite nice. Good bulletproof glass, good protection behind the pilot, so there is that which is nice. You have the gun setup in the wings, the 20mm Hispanos with 120 rounds. And then the 4 machine guns with 350 rounds each right there. You have the fuel tanks right here in front of the pilot, and of course the engine right there. Now the plane has bomb options and rocket options, which is quite nice to have. She can go into ground RB as well. So overall, very nice setup for this plane, but let's have a look at her. Hey guys, so here we are. We start off with the Spitfire Mk.IX sitting at 5.7 battle rating. The first plane in the main fighter line of the Israeli tree. 5.7 battle rating in this plane. That is of course exactly the main problem immediately, because this is a 4.3 battle rating plane. This is the equivalent of the British Spitfire F Mark 9. Same engine, same gun setup, same everything. So that's the problem of this plane. Of course this plane has strengths and weaknesses as well, but you have to take into account that this plane sits at almost a battle rating and a half higher than where it should be, and that's a problem, that's an issue. What are the strengths actually in this plane? The offensive guns are good. You have good firepower. The Hispanos are no longer the Hisparcos, so they do a good job of shooting things down, and the machine guns do their thing as well to help out. So offensive guns are strengths in a plane. The maneuverability in the Spitfire is good, and even though it's not a 5.7 Spitfire and should be at 4.3 where it's excellent, the maneuverability is still good at 5.7. There's also good durability in the Spitfire. It's sturdily made and it can take a hit or two, no problem. Of course then there is weaknesses in this plane, especially because, well, it sits at a way too high battle rating. The flaps are an issue, it's for all the Spitfires the case. It rips very easily, very early at around 280, so you got to be careful with those flaps. Overheating is a Spitfire problem, especially if you don't use Mach. So you got to manage that, make sure you don't burn that engine down. You have the ammo load on the cannons that is not great at all. It's almost Soviet-like, who have very low ammo loads on their cannons, and Spitfires have the same problems. The roll rate on the Spitfire is not too great, and you have climb rate on this plane. If it would sit at 4.3 battle rating, the climb rate on this one would actually be good, but the climb rate on this one for a 5.7 Spitfire is not up to par, and it is bad. So there is that. Now the flight style of the Spitfire is that it is a energy fighter mainly. That's its main role. It can energy fight quite well. You are also capable of turning, so she's a turn fighter as well, and she can do close air support. This plane does have bomb options and ordnance, so you can do ground pounding if you want to. That's a nice option to have in a plane like this. Gives you a little bit more variety in the roles that you can play. You can take it out in ground RB as well, thus making that a little bit more viable there. Is this plane competitive though at 5.7 battle rating? And I would say no. This plane would be very competitive at 4.3 battle rating, but at 5.7 she's not competitive. She doesn't climb the best. She doesn't energy fight the best. You have competitors that are way better than you, and no, so it's not competitive. And thus the fun factor is also not high. It is a low fun factor. You will face planes that you're not supposed to fight, that are way stronger than you in all aspects, and you're gonna have a low fun factor. And I also don't recommend this plane at all. Low recommendation for this plane. You should skip this plane, unlock it, and move on, go to the clipped wing version or do something else. But don't touch this plane until they fix it. Moving on to the Spitfire Mk.IX clipped wing version. Lovely looking plane, great skin by the way. She sits right here in the line, 5.7 battle rating, coming right after the 9C, which is good. You have same kind of armor protection on the plane, which is quite alright. You have the X-ray right here. We have a different setup. Of course, you have different wings, but also different guns. You have the Hispanos, 135 for each Hispano cannon, and 50 cal actually with 260 rounds on both sides, so that's good as well. Same kind of Spitfire fuel tank setup here before the pilot and the engine right there, which is good. You have no ground pounding options on this plane, just a pure fighter. So yeah, let's check her out. The Spitfire Mk.IX clipped wing. This might be the best regulatory plane in the Israeli rank 4 line. This plane sits at 5.7 battle rating. That is exactly the battle rating where it should be. This is an awesome plane with a lot of strings. Let's go into it. The strong points of this plane. Offensive guns are good in this plane. 50 cals with cannons. Fantastic combination, very lethal, and so that's awesome. Maneuverability is great in this plane. The clip wing version takes a little bit of turn time for a little bit of roll rate, and it makes it a little bit more versatile in the rolls. It can boom and zoom as well, and it rolls much better. This is awesome. So maneuverability is a strength. The climb rate in this thing is awesome, and you can definitely get up to altitude in this plane and do your thing from there. As I said, the roll rate is spectacular on this plane for Spitfires, whose roll rate usually is not up to par, but this roll rate is fantastic. And then you have the clipped wing, making sure that this plane can actually perform in a dive much better, stays rolling in its dive much longer than most other Spitfires, and thus is much more effective in longer dives when it comes to getting the guns on target. So the boom and zoom roll is a viable option in the clipped wing version here. Does this plane have weaknesses? Yes, of course it does. The ammo loads are still not good. On the 50 cals it's alright, but the cannon ammo is low. So there is that. You have flap rippage that is a little bit better, 320, but still very early for most other nations. If you compare it, the flap rippage is much later. Spitfires are not good with flaps, we know that by now. And of course we have overheating on this plane as well. It's not a different engine or anything, so still a Merlin engine that can overheat, especially without mag. So those are the three main weaknesses: ammo loads, flaps, and overheating. What is the flight style in this clipped wing Spitfire? Well, you can energy fight in it, of course. It is very good at holding its energy in the vertical and stuff like that. So she's great as an energy fighter. She can turn fight. You have better roll rate. You still have good turn time, although it's slightly worse than the normal winged versions. But the turn time is still very good compared to most other planes. So she's a turn fighter, and she can boom and zoom as well. Because of those clipped wings, she rolls much better and keeps her functionality quite high in the lower ends of the dives, making boom and zooming actually possible. Of course, you still have an earlier rip speed than most dedicated boom and zoomers, but she has a roll there. Is she competitive, this plane? Yes, she is highly competitive. It is awesome. What is the fun factor in this plane? I would say it's high. I love this plane. I love the versatility in the roles. You can go from boom and zooming to energy fighting and turn fighting, switch when you need it. That is a great option to have. So high fun factor for me. And do I recommend this plane? How high do I value her? Highly, very highly. This is the best plane that is not a premium in the Israeli line for me, and fantastic performer. And yeah, this is just the plane that will be the plane you should use the most, according to me, in my humble opinion. It fits the meta best as well. So we're looking at the first multi-role fighter in this line, the S199, and this is an absolute horror. She looks like a 109, but it's not quite a 109. She sits so right here in this multi-role fighter line, right here, 3.3 battle rating. Armor protection is quite good, protection for the fuel tank as well there, good bulletproof glass, some protection there. Alright. X-ray, you have the 20 millimeters right here, 135 rounds there. And the funny thing is that the 13 millimeter machine guns that are in the cowling here are not visible. But okay, that's fine. And we have the fuel tanks right here with the engine there. We do have some bomb options, 70 kilograms and 50 kilograms to your liking. If you want to equip that, that is up to you. So all good. And yeah, let's check her out. So here we go with the S199 experience. What an absolutely terrible experience this plane was, man. Terrible. The first plane in this line, 3.3 battle rating, and an absolutely terrible plane. It is a 109 later G frame with a Jumo bomber engine that's just not up to par and making the whole experience extremely painful. Watch the full review if you want to get a full scope of the painful experience that this plane is at this moment. But there are of course strengths in this plane, and the main strength of this plane are its offensive guns. You do run with two MG151 cannons, which are absolutely stellar. They're my favorite guns in this game. I really love them. So you have those combined with a few machine guns. The firepower is nothing wrong with that. That is great. You do still have a 109G frame, so the dive speed is good in this plane. Nothing wrong with that either. Then you have durability that is alright as well. So those are the three strengths that this plane and the only strengths that the plane has. The weaknesses in this plane are multitude, but the main problem is the engine performance is absolutely horrendous, and that translates into bad speeds. It's not great, the speeds on this plane. You have bad roll rate in this plane, and the overall maneuverability, turn time is bad as well. Then you have absolutely atrocious climb rate in this plane and horrendous overheating. This plane is just absolutely terrible when it comes to those things, and there are so many downsides to this plane that it is hard to see the good points that it does have. Only a few of them, but it does exist. And for the rest, it's just a painful experience. The flight style in this plane is boom and zooming. And you can boom and zoom, you just have to get to altitude with a lot of side climbing, because he doesn't have the engine power to climb. So you do not have support from other performance stats to get into that role, but that is the only things he can do due to the good dive speed that the plane has and the good guns. So you can boom and zoom in this plane, but it's very difficult to set it up for that role. She can also close air support, because you can put some bombs on it, 50 kilogram bombs and 70 kilogram bombs, and you can do a little bit of that, I guess, and get maybe in ground RB it has a role with those bombs and the guns. You can do head-ons with other planes until you die, maybe. So it does have those two roles it can potentially, in theory, fulfill. Is she competitive? No, not at all. This is the absolute bottom line plane at 3.3 that I ever saw. Absolutely terrible performance in this plane. So not competitive at all. Low fun factor as well. There's just no honor to get in this plane unless you're lucky, as I got in a match. But A low fun factor, and she's absolutely not recommended. Very low recommendation from me. You should not touch this plane, stay away from it, and do nothing with this plane until they either fix it or they lower the battle rating down to 2.3, 2.7 or something. This plane is just a very painful experience that you don't want to have. So don't touch this plane, skip it, move on. Moving on in the multi-role fighter line, we arrive at the P-51D-20 North American Mustang, sitting right here, 4.3 battle rating. Awesome plane, right? The Mustangs are great. Some armor protection in there, bulletproof glass, steel plates behind the pilot, and this in front between the engine and the cockpit, really nice. We have the 50 cal setup here with the inner pair 500 rounds, and then you go to 270 rounds. On the outside, you have the fuel tank set up, nicely spread out here. And there we have the engine. Alright, now we do have bombs and rocket options and combination of those in here. So you can go ground pounding to your heart's content in this plane. That's why it's in the multi-role fighter line, right? Great plane. Let's have a look. So we arrived at the P-51D-20 North American Mustang. Fantastic plane. I love the Mustangs. Always good to see a Mustang. Of course, it's not something new, but with a Mustang you know what you get, and you get reliable performance if you set the plane up correctly. 4.3 battle rating. After the S199 is the first usable plane in this line. What are the strengths in this plane? Speed. This plane has speed. It is fast in a straight line. And also in a dive. The dive performance is also absolutely wonderful. But yeah, a fast plane you have here, and you gotta keep her wound up. So keep it fast, this plane, and you'll have lots of fun in it. Another strength in this plane is the offensive guns. You have 650 cals with plenty of ammo, so that is always a nice thing to have. High speed maneuverability is also a strength in this plane, which can surprise people and which you can have a lot of fun with, because this plane usually is not seen as a maneuverable plane, but when she's fast, hey, she can turn for a few turns until she slows down, so that is a nice surprise there. And she has the flaps to back that up. The flap rip speed is also something to behold, and absolutely one of its strengths. Are there any weaknesses to this plane? Of course, yes. Lower speed maneuverability is one of its main weaknesses. It's not the most stellar climber, but it can still climb pretty well, so that is not a weakness. I would say that's a neutral stat. So it's one of the only weaknesses in this plane is when it's slow and it can't maneuver then, and it's out of its strength. Flight style in this plane. Boom and zooming is its main core business, and then of course you can also energy fight in it. This plane can also be equipped with bombs and rockets and combinations of those two. And it can thus perform the close air support role quite nicely. That is also why it's in the multi-role fighter line. Is this plane competitive, you ask me? Well, yes, this plane is definitely competitive at a 4.3 battle rating. You can fulfill quite a few roles very nicely, and it is the best, the only true focused boom and zoomer in this Israeli line. That does actually well. I mean, the S199 is also a boom and zoomer, but it cannot really fulfill that role because of its lackings. This plane can fulfill its role very nicely, and it is wonderful. Wonderful. A boom and zoomer that is above par. So yeah, highly competitive. What is the fun factor in this plane? High. It's absolutely great to fly a Mustang. It is good fun once you set it up correctly, and yeah, I had good amounts of fun in this plane. Do I recommend this plane? Well, I give it a medium recommendation. I will explain to you why. This plane is great, does its role very well, is fantastic, but it is not a meta plane right now. It is with the 25-minute timer and the time you need to set this plane up, it becomes a little bit more tricky to play. You still need to be patient, and that might be difficult for some players. That's why I give it a medium recommendation. But if you are aware that you can, if you know yourself to be capable of flying a disciplined boom and zoom roll, even with a 25-minute timer, then this can still be a great plane for you. So yeah, but recommendation for this plane is medium, even though it's a great plane. And so we arrive in the bomber line for rank 4 Israeli, and this is the only bomber in that rank. Here she sits, B-17G, 5.3 battle rating, sitting nice and shiny. The armor is alright on this bomber, some protection for the gunner, some protection for the pilot, so that's overall decent. Here we go for the X-ray. We have the gunners everywhere, they sit throughout the whole plane, single gunners, double gunners. You know, the ammo loads vary from 400 to 600 rounds per gun, so that's quite good. You have the 4 engines here, and you have the fuel tanks spread out over the wings, so the wings are the danger for those fires. You have 2 pilots, so one can die without you losing control of the plane, which is good. You have bomb loads right here, they're not too great. Top loads for the other B-17 Gs are 1000 pounders, 8 of them usually. This one only has 500 kilogram bombs, so that's 2 bombs less. That's unfortunate, but we're gonna check this plane out anyway. We have one bomber in the Israeli rank 4 bomber line, and you're looking at it, the B-17G. I love the skin on this thing, by the way. It looks very badass, and I like just to set up the colors and stuff like that. I guess that's up for debate. I've heard some squadron mates say they don't like the color scheme on these Israeli planes, but I like it personally. This B-17G sits at 5.3 battle rating, and well, you know, the bomber experience in War Thunder is not always that great. How is it for this B-17? The strengths in this plane are, the main strength is the turret placement. The turret placement on the B-17 is fantastic. They didn't call it the Flying Fortress for nothing. It has guns everywhere. It has very few unprotected spots actually. And well, you just have to get used to the gunnery, of course, which is always something. If you don't do it a lot, like me, you're looking a little bit for the right lead at different distances. Like here, you can hit a plane like this easily, but you have to get that experience under your belt to do it rightly. But the B-17 has plenty of guns, and you can definitely shoot at all times, so it's something to work on. But once you get it down, it can be very, very lethal. The ammo loads in those turrets are also a strength. Plenty of ammo in all those guns, and you can shoot to your heart's content, which is very good. Of course, there's also weaknesses to this bomber. The speed is one of its main weaknesses. It's not a fast bomber, it is actually a very slow bomber, and fighters easily catch up to you. That is not a problem for them, and thus they almost always get a shot on you, which is, well, problematic, although this plane has some survivability. Just not enough survivability to be one of its main strengths, I would say. So the speed is a weakness, the maneuverability is a weakness. It is a slow-moving bomber. That is just not one of its strengths, unfortunately. The bomb loads are also a weakness in this plane. The main load of this bomber is 6 500 kilogram bombs, and most of the other B-17s have 8 1,000 pounders in other lines. So that is 2 extra bombs actually from this caliber. So yeah, it's a bit lacking, this Israeli bomber loads. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but there it is. The flight style in this plane is that it is a base bomber. It is not a close air support role or a column attacker. You know what the close air support does usually on the lower altitudes. This is a base bomber. That's plain and simple. Is this plane competitive? I would say no. Even though it is it's a good bomber with a good spread of its guns, it is not very competitive in War Thunder, in Air RB, unfortunately. Fun factor is also low. You get shot a lot. Planes easily catch up to you, and you die quickly. So, well, quickly is it has survivability, but it's just not a lot of fun, is it? Recommendation is medium. If you are a bomber pilot or attacker pilot, there's not much options in rank 4, so you might want to fly this plane. I don't know. I wouldn't fly it. I would fly some of the fighters in here, but yeah, medium recommendation for this plane. It's not bad when it goes for bombers, slow moving base bombing bombers. This plane is quite decent, but in War Thunder it's painful. So last but not least in the Israeli rank 4 is the premium Spitfire LF Mk.IX, Azer Weizman's Spitfire, sitting right here, 5.7. Alright, good Spitfire, the LF Mk.IX, I love that. Armor, there is some armor protection on this plane, again, just like all of these Spitfires have the same kind of cover behind and in front of the pilot, which is good. You've got the gun set up, which is like the clipped wing Spitfire with the 50 cals and 20mm guns, 135 rounds, 12.7 Browning machine guns, 260 rounds, which is very nice. Fuel tank setup here in front of the pilot, and the Merlin 66 engine right there, which is good. You also have ground pounding options on this plane, rockets and bombs, and the combination setup. So quite nice for this plane, makes it a little bit more versatile. All in all, very nice plane, and let's check this premium out. So we arrived at the premium of the Israeli rank 4 line, and that is Azer Weizman's Spitfire LF Mk.IX. The LF Mk.IXs are very good Spitfires that I really like to fly. So yeah, one of my personal favorite Spitfires out there, 5.7 battle rating, a very nice premium to have. The offensive guns are a main strength for this plane. The Hisparcos are no longer Hisparcos, but can now be called Hispanos for real. They do good damage, and you have support from 50 cals on this plane, so that is good. The maneuverability is also a main strength in this plane. Compared to the clipped wing version, you have a little bit less roll rate and a little bit more turn time, so but it is very nice maneuverability on this plane. He also has fantastic climb rate, very nice climb rate indeed on this plane. You can get up to altitude easily, although you do have to watch the web, of course, and the overheating of the engine. Talking about weaknesses, the ammo load is on the cannons is definitely a weakness. It is a low ammo load, 120 rounds per gun, just not very good, is it? Flaps. The rip speed of the flaps is very low, and it's a danger in the plane, especially when you're maneuvering close to the ground. It can pull you into a tree if you're not careful, so be careful with those flaps when you deploy them. Only below 280 are you quite safe from the flap rippage that is Spitfire land. Overheating is also one of the main weaknesses in the Spitfires, and this one is no exception. Terrible overheating in this plane, and you definitely want to be careful when it comes to that. So use the web sparingly and when you need it, and try to keep the engine cooled. Flight style in this plane, she's an energy fighter and a turn fighter, which can do close air support as well. This plane has bomb and rocket options and combination of the two. It has a role to play in ground RB because of that as well, so the roles and the places where this plane can function well is quite versatile, and that is a nice thing to have for a premium, because there's a lot of people flying it. You also want to have different ways you can use the plane, and she has it, so that's good. Great energy fighter, good turn fighter, fantastic little plane that can transition between those roles very nicely. Of course, I'm not doing the close air support role, but she can do that as well. Is she competitive? Yes, this plane is definitely competitive at 5.7 battle rating, very nice plane to fly. The fun factor is high for me. There's just so much nuance to this plane, turn fighting, energy fighting, lovely subtle plane. I love that. So high fun factor. Recommended for me, yes, highly recommended this Spitfire. It is one of the two best planes in this line. Well, you can call the Mustang the third best plane, but this is definitely a good plane for the battle rating. and good reward. So this is actually one of those lines where you might think of this Spitfire as a very viable option, as the best option, although the clipped wing version is also very good. So we'll talk more about that in the conclusion, but this Spitfire is definitely viable, and you can buy it without any doubt. It is a definite good plane that can net you a lot of results and make the grinding process a little bit easier. Hey guys, we have arrived in the guide and tip section of this video. I'll give you my tips and my evaluations of this rank so you can go through it more efficiently in a sec. First of all, if you have enjoyed this video anywhere, if it gave you some value, please like the video. Please comment on the video, that really helps me out. This interaction gives a boost in the search engines and will help my channel out immensely. If you are not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Smash the subscription button, get into this community. We're making a lot of rank reviews, we're doing a lot more content. Please get on board and enjoy the channel. Press that notification button while you're at it so you don't miss a video at all. Now, rank 4 Israeli is a rank that is littered with a few planes that are not very good. You've got this S199, which is not very good. In the multi-role fighter line, we have the Spitfire Mk.IX, which is a 4.3 battle rating plane, sitting at 5.7, which is also problematic, and that leaves you with a road to go through to get to this clipped wing Spitfire or the Mustang. Then you still have the paying option, 30 euros for the Spitfire LF Mk.IX, also an option, and you have a B-17 sitting there. So what should you do in this line? What is most efficient? Well, if you want to spend money, the most efficient way is this Spitfire. It is on par with the clipped wing Spitfire, which are the two best planes in this line. It is 30 euros, and this is actually a good premium, and it will save you a lot of pain. It's money, right? So I mean, I'm not going to tell you whether you should do this or not, but I can tell you that this is the fastest way to this rank, the Spitfire LF Mk.IX. She's great, fine, good plane. It's a good premium as well, so it is not a waste of your money to buy this plane, especially not when looking at the non-paying option, which is this plane. We're starting off with this S199 to get through this rank. You can then have a Spitfire that is subpar, and then work your way to the Spitfire Mk.IX, the clipped wing version. It is awesome. It is just as good, if not better. I like the clipped wing best. I think this is the best plane. This is also worthy of a talisman if you're a fighter pilot. Definitely Spitfire Mk.IX clipped wing. Hoo, hot plane, lovely. But you're going through some pain to get there. But, I mean, you don't have to spade these things, so just move your way, unlock this, and get to the clipped wing Spitfire. Then there is the interesting option of the P51D20. It is both the best option for ground pounding, as it is the best, it could be the best if you like boom and zooming, for air. So that is a shorter way. You don't have to go to this Spitfire, just go through this, unlock this, and just stay here. That's also an option. What I do have to say is that the P51 is not really meta friendly. With the 25-minute timer, you have less time to set up a boom and zooming plane, and this is a pure boom and zoomer. Compared to some of the top climbers out there, this Mustang has a little bit more problems setting up, and it loses you a good chunk of your time in that 25-minute timer world that we live in right now in War Thunder. So this is a less viable option, but I don't underrate this plane at all. I really like this Mustang. A 4.3 battle rating is quite a bit better than the 5.7 battle rating, right? And this plane is just as good at the 4.3 as this Spitfire is on 5.7. So even though I think this Spitfire clipped wing is your best option, it's the best plane of rank 4, I quite like this Mustang as well at 4.3 battle rating. So that is also an option. Go through the S199 and move on to the Mustang and just stay there. Now if you want to go ground pounding, I still think this route is the best way, S99 to P51D. But if you're really a bomber pilot, there's of course no other option than to fly the B-17G. And it can definitely do a job. it's just not very great with the bomb loads. I mean, the American G, the B-17G, has 8 1,000 pounders, which is a much better bomb load than this one. So this B-17 is a bit handicapped when it comes to that. It's just not a great setup, but you can fly it. There's nothing wrong with it. But for ground pounding, I would advise you this plane as well. So for talismans, I would actually only put a talisman on this one. And if you're a fighter pilot, I would only put it on this one. If you're a ground pounder, you might want to put it on this Mustang, because this Mustang can definitely ground pound and be efficient there if you want to. And if you do want to spend the 30 euros, then the Spitfire is the easiest way to this rank. But as I said, the clipped wing version route and the Mustang route are definitely possibilities in this rank. For the rest, I personally would avoid this B-17. I would stay in this thing as least long as you can and avoid this Spitfire as well. So that's it, guys. That's my advices and my tips for rank 4 Israeli. I hope you enjoyed the video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.